engaging in the ELA Guidebooks unit, The Giver. The purpose of this video is to learn about utopian and dystopian societies and understand why people seek to read stories about them. The text you will read throughout this unit, including The Giver, features these types of societies. Be sure you have your handout and something to write with for the video. If you were to create the perfect place to live, what features would this community have? What would the government's laws be? How would people move around and interact with one another? For centuries, people in real life and in literature have been thinking about this very question, trying to design their version of the perfect society. Throughout this unit, you are going to read about different societies. What is a society? A society is a large group of people who live in the same area and are connected to each other by things like laws and customs. Societies have existed for as long as humans have been alive. Think about the United States for a moment. We as Americans form a society because we all live in the United States. Because we're in a society, we all have to follow our country's laws. We also share our country's customs, like celebrating Independence Day on the 4th of July. For centuries, people have been thinking about what could make a society perfect. In the 1500s, the philosopher Sir Thomas More gave a name to the idea of a perfect society: utopia. He made up this word from Greek and Latin roots. Let's take a minute and think about the meaning of each part of the word. The beginning, eu, is thought to come from either eu, which means good in Latin, or from ou, which means no in Greek. The end, topia, comes from topos, which means place in Greek. So putting each of those together, utopia can mean good place or no place. No one knows for certain which meaning Sir Thomas More intended for this word. In fact, he may have meant both, since in reality, a perfect place does not exist. A utopia is a place of ideal perfection, especially in laws, government, and living conditions. Throughout history, people have imagined many different kinds of utopias based on different forms of government, religion, and other social conditions. You may have heard people's ideas of these perfect places. You might be familiar with Shangri-La, a fictional place, or you might have heard of Plato's Republic, a perfect state ruled by philosopher kings. These utopias all have several things in common: equality in government, justice, and law, and economics, or the relationship between money, goods, and services. Peace and perfect happiness for those living there. And the natural world and the environment are protected and celebrated. In The Giver, the main character's community seems to be a utopia. There is no poverty or starvation. Everyone has a job and a home. There is no prejudice. Everything is perfectly planned to eliminate any problems. You are ready to think about what life is like in a utopian society. Pause this video to record your answers on your handout at the first stop sign. Then press play when you are ready to continue. Check your answers using the chart on the slide. The first statement does describe a utopia because there is equality in economics. No one is wealthier than anyone else, and there is equality in goods and services. The second statement does not describe a utopia because there is no peace. The third statement does describe a utopia because there is happiness. People are able to think for themselves and are not told what to think by the government or anyone else. A utopia seems pretty great, right? Over time, people have tried to create real-life utopian communities, but none of those communities have been successful in the way that their creators had hoped. No person is perfect, so in reality, no place can be perfect for everyone. Just as people have imagined a perfect society, people have also imagined dystopias. Let's take a minute and think about the meaning of each part of this word dystopia. The beginning, dys, means bad or not good in Greek. And we already know that the end of the word, topia, comes from topos, meaning place in Greek. So putting each of those parts together, dystopia means bad place. A dystopia is a place with oppressive or harsh and cruel societal control of the majority in service of a better life for the controlling minority of people who hold the power. There's often the illusion of a utopia or perfect world. However, the citizens living there are not treated like people and they lead fearful lives. It's a society that is undesirable and frightening for most of the people. You may have heard of people's ideas of dystopia. For example, you might be familiar with Panem, the setting for the Hunger Games series. On the surface, dystopians look perfect because everything seems equal, but under the surface, they are not perfect because people are not allowed to show any individuality. For example, in a dystopian society, there are usually limits on independent thoughts and freedoms. The leaders in a dystopia do not value uniqueness or disagreement with political leaders. Usually, the society has totalitarian government, a form of government that has complete control over the people and does not allow strong, different political ideas. Additionally, in a dystopia, the natural world is not trusted, and using technology has been used to create seemingly perfect living conditions. You are ready to compare and contrast a utopia and a dystopia. Pause this video to record your answers on your handout at the second stop sign. Then press play when you are ready to continue. Some of your ideas may include both have intense social control and seem perfect to outsiders. Utopias value individuals and freedom, dystopias do not. In a utopia, the natural world and the environment are celebrated. In a dystopia, people do not trust and even fear the natural world. Dystopian societies sound pretty scary. So, why do so many authors write stories about this type of society? Authors write about them in the extreme to draw attention to real world issues about society, like the environment, politics, the economy, or technology. When authors write about a dystopia, it usually meant as a warning to people to pay attention to what's happening in their own society and to be aware of how life can go from bad to worse without anyone realizing what has happened. If dystopias are so scary, why do people like reading them? There are a lot of reasons for this. Dystopian stories act like mirrors because they reflect the fears and anxieties people experience in their own lives, but to the extreme. It can be reassuring to read a story and see that there could be a worse way to live. People also like to read about characters who rise up and challenge the government, which is a common occurrence in dystopian stories. It can be exciting to live through a character who does something that we might never experience. You are ready to think about why people imagine dystopias. Pause this video to record your answers on your handout at the third stop sign. Then press play when you are ready to continue. Some of your ideas may include people write about dystopian societies to draw attention to real world issues about a society, like the environment or technology, or to warn people to pay attention to their society. People read about dystopian societies because it can be reassuring for people to know that there is a worse way to live than what they are currently experiencing. Also, it can be exciting to live through a character who does something that we will probably never do. Understanding the difference between utopian and dystopian societies and why people imagine these societies, especially in literature, is important for understanding the text you will read throughout the guidebook unit, The Giver. When you finish this video, be sure to turn in your completed handout to your teacher.